What would happen if you gave Overwatch heroes the abilities to switch out their weapons to dramatically change their playstyle? A game similar to Overwatch that does this is Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2, for those who don't know, is a class-based shooter just like Overwatch, but rather than having 37 plus heroes, they only have 9 mercenaries. However, you can switch out the weapons of those 9 mercenaries to customize your playstyle, and that is why I added one Team Fortress 2 weapon to each Overwatch hero, in the hopes of spicing up their gameplay. Here's how it went. Sick 'em, boys! Oh, I forgot about that. Where is he? Where is he? For Ana, I gave her the Sydney Sleeper from the Sniper. The Sydney Sleeper makes it so when you shoot someone, you douse them with Jarate, and anyone who gets shot while under the effect of Jarate will be hit by mini crits, which means that they will take 35% more damage. As you can see, when I shoot someone, they get doused by Jarate about a half second later. That's just because Ana has damage over time, and if I douse them with Jarate, and then the damage over time affects them, it actually makes it so I can now two-shot people, which is not what I was intending to do. However, I guess it would be more accurate to the Sniper in Team Fortress 2. Now, the reason I decided to give Ana the Sydney Sleeper is because of a weird gimmick where when you hit someone with the Sydney Sleeper, it removes 1 second off of your Jarate cooldown. So I decided, hey, whenever Ana hits someone, it'll take 1 second off her anti-nade. So I just thought that was a cool correlation. The only issue with Ana having the Sydney Sleeper is that she cannot headshot, and the Sydney Sleeper actually does reduce damage compared to the other snipers on a headshot, so I don't think it's going to be a big deal. So go out there and make all your enemies wet. Next up is that I gave Ashe the Force of Nature from Scout. The Force of Nature is a double-barrel shotgun that does increased damage and increased knockback. It is actually very similar to her coach gun, but she gets 2 bullets of it, and it will look like it just goes on a very short cooldown. Then after 2 shots, it goes on a 2-second cooldown to simulate the reloading. In all honesty, I think this might be my favorite change, except for maybe one more, which I'll get to later, of course. Ashe's Force of Nature is clearly different from the Scout's Force of Nature. When you knock someone back, you actually knock them out of your effective range, and the spread on the coach gun is so big that you cannot kill them with a follow-up shot, and so you have to shoot them with your Viper, which is kind of like the pistol from Team Fortress 2. As the trade-off, since a Force of Nature is supposed to be the primary weapon of Scout, I decided to take away Ashe's scope because you cannot scope in with the Force of Nature. The ideal playstyle would be to knock them back and then shoot them with your Viper. You can also do some cool jumps with the Force of Nature, but honestly it's a little bit more limiting than the actual coach gun. But the good thing is that it really changes her playstyle and makes her honestly more fun, in my opinion. For Baptiste, I gave him the Overdose. The Overdose does 15% less damage. However, for every 10% of your Uber charge, your movement speed increases by 2%. Since there is no such thing as Uber charge in Overwatch, I decided to correlate the movement speed with the ultimate charge instead. So for every 10% of your ultimate that you get, you gain 2% speed. This means that when Baptiste has his ultimate, he moves at 120% of the normal speed. Here is a little race on screen, and I have the speed, he does not, and I somehow beat him even though he goes first. Is this really worth the trade-off of 15% of your damage? I don't really think so, honestly. However, it's just a cool gimmick that I decided to add. For Bastion, I decided to give him the Natasha from the Heavy. The whole reason I decided to give him the Natasha was mostly because the downsides and the side effects of other miniguns are about rev up speed, and you can't really change that in Overwatch. But the Natasha, when you're under 50% health, gives you a 20% damage resistance, which is just like Bastion's Sentry form. So what does the Natasha do? The bullets unfortunately do 25% less damage. However, when you're shot by it, you are affected by a miniature slowdown. On screen is what it looks like when you are peppered by it, and then now is what it looks like when you're constantly hit by it. It still does a respectful amount of damage, and because the person is slowing down, you actually end up hitting more shots. So barriers are going to be more effective against Bastion, but any fleeing targets will have a hard time getting away from you. I do have to say, it does successfully change your playstyle. Also, before we go on to the next one, I just want to mention that I am not a game developer. I don't work at Overwatch. There's a big chance that when you play the code, it's not going to work and something's going to break. So feel free to fix it if you'd like. I'm going to try and get Super Slime to fix more of it, which by the way, credit to him for teaching me a lot of stuff. But more importantly, if something's not balanced, that's just how it is, I guess. However, feel free to leave your comments down below, especially on ones that I've missed, like the other weapons, or any feedback like trying to make it more balanced, or should I base it off of Team Fortress 2 stats, or should I translate it to Overwatch stats, because I kind of did a mix throughout the video. Now, the whole reason I was saying that note was because Brigitte has the Fan of War. The Fan of War notoriously sucks in Team Fortress 2, but is really good in MVM, which is the PvE of Team Fortress 2. Oh boy, can't believe I brought that one up. The Phantom Ward does 75% less damage, which is a lot less damage. However, upon hitting an enemy, it will mark them for death, which means that they will take mini crits whenever they are shot by anyone on your team, also known as they're going to take 135% more damage. It also marks them with a white outline, and it's supposed to do a gray outline for your teammates, but for some reason I think that's bugged. Either I coded it wrong or it's just bugged right now. But it lasts up to 15 seconds, which is really, really long. I'm a little scared by how long that actually is. Like I said, in Team Fortress 2, the Phantom Wars are really not that good, but in Overwatch, I think it might be a little strong. This is why I said I'm not sure if we should balance it off of Overwatch or Team Fortress 2, so here's the Phantom War from Team Fortress 2, besides the mini crits to crit thing. Again, this will change how Brigitte's play. They're going to be much more team-oriented, and on your own, you probably can't kill much, but once you mark someone, they're going to be marked for a long time, and your teammates are going to have a field day killing stuff. Next up is Cassidy with another scout weapon, which is the Winger. The reason I gave Cassidy the Winger is simply because he has 6 bullets in his pistol, and the Winger has 5. Normally the pistols in Team Fortress 2 have 12 bullets, so when I saw that the numbers were really, really close, I was just like, hey, why not? So when Cassidy has his pistol out, which is always, he will do 15% more damage, and he will also have a 25% jump height increase. On top of that, since the scout can double jump, I gave Cassidy a double jump. I don't think I did this with many other characters, so enjoy it, Cassidy. The whole point was that I didn't feel like there was a big increase in the jump, so the double jump I think is kind of needed for this weapon to work. Because it's kind of like you get a 50% increase rather than a 25 on Scout, since he has 2 jumps of 25, so something like that. Regardless, Cassidy now can jump everywhere like Genji. He also only has 5 bullets instead of 6, but he does 15% more damage, and like I said, he's super mobile. I don't know, as always, trading off his magazine clip for a little bit more damage and a little bit more mobility. I don't know how many breakpoints this actually affects, so I don't know if people are going to choose the Winger over just the default pistol, since he loses a bullet for basically nothing. However, I think the mobility is a little strong, so I definitely think this would change Cassidy's playstyle. Next up is d.va with the man treads from Soldier from Team Fortress 2, not the Soldier that we have. The man treads are pretty basic. When you take fall damage and you fall on an enemy, you will deal to that enemy 10 damage plus triple the fall damage. Now here's where I decided to convert that to Overwatch terms, because I felt like d.va taking 200 fall damage and then falling on someone and doing 600 would be a little broken, since she can just fly straight up. So instead it's 1-to-1 damage. If d.va falls and takes 100 damage, she's gonna deal 100 damage to that character, especially because it's like a 5-second cooldown, so I thought it'd be a little broken if it was 3-time damage. Oh, by the way, d.va takes fall damage now. Also, d.va takes reduced knockback because that's just a stat of the man treads, so good luck pushing d.va around. On top of that, the man treads are supposed to make it so you're allowed to rocket jump and have increased air control by 200%, but since it's d.va, it doesn't really translate super well, so I just didn't add that. Basically, the man treads let you Goomba stomp people. It's kind of fun. It's a little buggy though, so watch out for that. Oh, also I learned that you can accidentally friendly fire your teammates. Whoops! I'm not fixing that. That's a feature now. Doomfist! Ullapool Caber. The Ullapool Caber from Team Fortress 2 is a one-time use melee weapon that does a giant explosion when you hit someone. Again, this is one of those weapons where I translated it into Overwatch terms. I decided to give it to Doomfist because punching someone and having them explode just kind of looks cool and sounds funny. He's also supposed to be able to level skyscrapers, so why not? Basically, Doomfist is now able to punch people. It goes on a 30-second cooldown if he hits the target. And when he punches that person, it's going to do a lot more damage, but it shouldn't kill a 200 HP target. Unless, of course, the gauntlet is charged, and I'm pretty sure it will. Will this change Doomfist's playstyle? Yes, it will. Will it change his counterplay? Yes, it will. Would this be healthy for the game? Probably not. It's going to be more of a meme strategy, of course. However, we unfortunately already expect that from Doomfist. Moving on to Echo. I gave Echo the Gas Passer. Originally, I was going to give her the Disguise Kit from the Spy, but there's no way of doing that, I'm going to be honest with you. She can duplicate, so I thought it'd be cool if she could disguise as people. It didn't work. The Gas Passer, however, from the Pyro, it does work, mostly. It's honestly one of the more buggy abilities. The first person that you damage with your stickies will be doused in gasoline. When you shoot that person, they will be ignited for, like, I think 80 damage? Again, I translated it into Overwatch terms. If they don't get ignited, the gasoline will just wear off. Also, if you land every single sticky, the first one will douse them and the last one will ignite them, which is kind of cool. And while testing, there was this glitch where you were basically guaranteed to kill someone if you ignite them, because what was happening is when you douse them, every single time they took fire damage, it would reignite them, so it's basically an infinite igniting process where there is physically no way of surviving it, unless you ran out the cooldown, I guess, which is 9 seconds. However, when you guys test it, that should be fixed. By the way, I know I didn't say it, but I put it on screen. Here's the code. However, there is something glorious about Echo's Gas Passer. It gives her a taunt kill. Whenever you emote as Echo, everyone in a 2.6 meter radius of you will die instantly. In Team Fortress 2, you're supposed to actually hit someone and it's not a radius, but I decided to just make it a radius, just to make it more simple, coding-wise, because if you end up doing a moving emote, it's going to cause problems, so I decided to just do a radius from where you're standing. Next up, we got Genji with the Atomizer from the Scout. The Atomizer deals 15% less damage to players, however, it allows you to triple jump. The reason I gave it to Genji was because he already had a double jump, and I just thought a triple jump would be cool. What's really cool about Genji is that he also does a third flip, because for some reason, whenever he gets knocked back or something, he does a flip, so that's cool. This honestly doesn't change much about Genji, because he already can wall climb up to high places. However, I guess it helps him dodge more, so that's cool at least. If it was like TF2 where you can switch out weapons, you'll never know if it's a triple jumping Genji or a double jumping Genji until you face against him, or you count his damage, I guess. However, it'd only be his melee damage that changes, so be a little hard to do that. The Atomizer also comes with the taunt kill, Grand Slam, or in our case, Genji just does a funky emote. Finally, a workshop change that doesn't nerf Genji, woo! Next up is Hanzo, and I gave him the Cozy Camper from the Sniper. The Cozy Camper gives 20% less knockback while aiming down. To make it simple, I just made it so he always takes 20% less knockback. And then for every second that you don't get shot, you regain health. This slowly ramps up over time until it's 4 health per second. This means that Hanzo can now sit in one place and just regenerate over time. In a game like Overwatch, that's not going to really help you that much. You don't want to take a really long time healing, but I guess if you don't have any healing at all, it's better than nothing. So not really sure what this is going to change about Hanzo, but hey, he can heal at least. And even though the Cozy Camper does not come with a taunt kill, I gave a taunt kill to Hanzo because the Huntsman from the Sniper, which is a bow, gives Sniper a taunt kill, so I just added it for fun. Like I said, it doesn't really change his playstyle, and for balance reasons, you probably would remove his Storm Arrow for it, because the Storm Arrow is the closest thing to a secondary for Hanzo, so it would probably end up being a nerf. For Junker Queen, I gave her the Frontier Justice from the Engineer. The Frontier Justice makes it so you only have half your bullets. However, for every elimination that you get with a turret, which I'll get to in a minute, you will gain a crit, and then when your turret's destroyed, every shot after that will be a critical hit. Critical hits, by the way, do 3 times damage. This basically makes it so if you do a good shot, you're gonna one-shot a squishy target being 200 health points. For Junker Queen, since she obviously doesn't have a turret, I just made it so when she gets an elimination, the next time she shouts, she'll gain the critical hits, and she'll be outlined lime green. And then, like I said, every time you shoot, you use one of your critical hits. Quite honestly, this would probably make Junker Queen a little broken. Even though you would be worse in the mid-fight, once you get one singular kill, you can then basically eliminate whoever you want out of the game, especially with your axe swing. But at the very minimum, hey, at least we changed up her playstyle, which is kind of the goal with this video. Also, because the Frontier Justice has a taunt kill in Team Fortress 2, Junker Queen also has a taunt kill. 4th one in a row, by the way. Next up is Junkrat, and he does not have a taunt kill. Junkrat, I gave the Lock and Load. The Lock and Load from the Demo Man reduces your grenades down to 3. However, the bullets go 25% faster. They inflict 20% more damage to buildings, but the splash damage is reduced by 25%. There is a small issue with this. Number one is that I'm not sure how to make it so grenades do more damage towards buildings. I also do not know how to reduce splash damage, so I did not add those two. However, I did make it so the grenades go 25% faster. So the basic trade-off is you're more accurate, but you have less bullets. And I didn't really notice it. It didn't really feel like a buff. It really just felt like you lost 2 grenades. You'll see that I did hit some more shots than I would normally, but it's just really not worth it. So overall, giving Junkrat the Lock and Load is not really worth it. He doesn't even have a taunt kill to compensate. Next up is Kiriko. I gave Kiriko the Covenant's Kunai from the Spy. Kiriko has a kunai, so I gave her the kunai, that's really it. The kunai in Team Fortress 2 reduces your health from, I think, 125 to 70. So what I did is I reduced Kiriko's health from 200 to 100 just to be a round number. However, the upside of this weapon is that when you backstab someone, you gain extra overhealth. For Kiriko, I made that number 150, so when you backstab someone, you'll now have 250, and it will decay slowly back to 100. This can be stacked however high you want by chain stabbing people. I'm gonna be honest with you, it is very hard to use this weapon. You'll see clips of me dying in the background because I could not get a direct backstab, and I even face stabbed someone at some point, which was pretty funny. But you are able to do some really cool tricks like climb a wall and then backstab them as they turn. And there's a few other things like you can make people turn and then go back, like a matador or whatever they call it. I could not get a stair trick stab, I'm sorry. I'm just not that good. And also the backstabbing is a little gimmicky, but it's really fun. This was probably my second favorite change behind Ashe. Does it change Kiriko's playstyle? Yes, it sure does. Is it fun? Yes, it is. Is it really hard? Yes, it is, so consider adding it. Also, Kiriko has a taunt kill. Next up is Lifeweaver with the Blutsauger from the Medic. The Blutsauger makes it so Lifeweaver regains health slower than normal. However, the trade-off is that when you hit someone with a bullet, you will heal for 3 health. Since Lifeweaver has a volley of thorns, it should theoretically make up for him not being able to passive heal as fast, and help him during combat. However, in practice, it didn't really work like that. From what I have noticed, Lifeweaver shoots so fast, or shoots 2 at a time, I think, and that means that it doesn't really calculate it correctly. So instead of doing 3 for 1, it only does 3 for 2 bullets, which is not right. It should be doing 6 for 2 bullets. So it actually doesn't really help him and mostly hurts him. Either way, the Blutsauger would be a cool change. It would make Lifeweaver a little closer to Moira. However, it would need a little bit of testing to balance it correctly. Up next, I gave Lucio the Holiday Punch from the Heavy. The Holiday Punch makes it so when you melee someone from the back, it will do a critical hit, and critical hits with the Holiday Punch will make their target laugh, or in this case, will just stun them. This then makes it so you can follow up with a taunt kill. The strategy with this would be to wall right above someone, drop down on them, punch them in the back, and then emote on them. Pretty funny. Or I guess you could kill them the normal way, but that's kind of boring. This might directly upgrade Reddit Lucios, but at least we'll have a good laugh while doing it. Next up is Mei, and I gave her the Backburner from the Pyro. Mei's Endothermic Blaster is kind of similar to the Flamethrower from TF2, the main difference being that Mei has ice while the Pyro has fire, but they do kind of shoot the same projectiles. So I decided to give her a Flamethrower, and I thought the Backburner would be a cool one. As the name suggests, the Backburner does triple damage when you shoot someone from the back. Unfortunately, Mei got reworked, so she does less damage now, so it's not as potent now, but she still does more damage than she used to, and she can still freeze technically. So the Backburner is basically a straight upgrade, except there is one downside, and that is that she has less ammo. This ammo nerf actually makes it so she can only shoot her icicles 4 times, which is actually the same as the Pyro. It nerfs its air blast potential down to 4, and that is why I chose that ammo count. So basically, Mei does more damage from behind, however she has less ammo overall. This does kind of change her playstyle. She can't just spam icicles as much. Also, she'll get rewarded for going behind people. I think this definitely would change her playstyle. Next up is Mercy, and I gave her the Medigun from the Medic. The reason I gave her the Medigun is because her beam on her staff is basically the same as the beam from the Medic. However, I replaced her ultimate with Ubercharge. Ubercharge, for those who don't know, is where you're able to go invulnerable for 8 seconds and choose a target to go invulnerable with you. Just watch the TF2 cinematics. So when Mercy ultimates, she and her target goes invulnerable. And I do have to say there is currently a glitch that I'm gonna honestly probably leave in. So basically the bug makes it so whoever you choose as your first healing target is the target that's gonna stay Ubered alongside yourself. And until I fix it, it's gonna stay like that, unfortunately. I'm just having a hard time coding it. This was probably one of the harder ones to code. Either way, as long as you're not switching targets, it pretty much works the same as it does in Team Fortress 2. And this would definitely change Mercy's playstyle. Being able to make someone invulnerable just like Zenyatta would be pretty good. For Moira, I gave her the Solemn Vow from the Medic. The Solemn Vow in Team Fortress 2 makes it so you can see enemy health and names and Ubercharge, with the downside being that you only have a 10% slower attack speed. Since I cannot change the attack speed of melees, I honestly just decided not to add the downside. So when you hold your balls out, you can see the enemy's health and ultimate charge. You can also spam your balls to constantly check. If you use your ability, then obviously you can't use it. Not really sure how this will change Moira's playstyle, but I guess it will help you track ultimates better. Since there is no downside, you would basically always want to run it. So honestly, doesn't really change the playstyle that much because it's just better. So yeah, I don't really see this affecting your Moira gameplay. Next up is Orisa, and I gave her the Hulong Heater. The Hulong Heater is from the Heavy, and basically when he revs up his minigun, rings of fire will come out from him. So I just translated that to Orisa, except you can't really rev your guns in Overwatch, so I just made it so when you're firing your gun and you're fortified, that's when it does it. The ideal playstyle with this is that you use Fortify, you start shooting, and then you just directly run into people and it will light them on fire. Since there is a bug that it constantly catches them on fire over and over again, you can actually stack the fire damage so it's even better. The downside to the Hulong Heater is that your gun will overheat faster. In all honesty, I think this would change Orisa's gameplay style just a little bit. You would actually have to go for riskier plays and you'd get rewarded for them if you succeeded. The ideal way to play Hulong Heater Orisa is just to barge into people with your Fortify and your gun, and just light as many people on fire as you can, and hopefully get a pick. This would actually go really well with Lifeweaver even. So yeah, I think this would be a good change for Orisa as a side grade. Next up is Pharah, and I gave her the black box from the Soldier. The black box reduces your ammo count down to 3. However, if you do 100 damage or more, you will gain 20 health, and then between 1 and 99 will scale downward. So if you only do 1 damage, you're only going to get 0.1 health or something like that. And then it scales up to 100, where you do 20 health. Basically, more damage, more healing back, and you cannot go over 20 healing. In all honesty, I think the black box would be great for Pharah, because what if you don't have a pocket healer? Or even better, if your healers just aren't very good at hitting you. Your sustain would be much better as a black box Pharah. It would hurt your spam potential, but it would actually help your pick potential, because assuming that you're hitting most of your shots, you don't really need more than 3 bullets in a lot of cases, and that extra survivability will be really, really good. So yeah, the black box, pretty good choice for Pharah. Next up is Ramattra with the Fist of Steel from the Heavy. This is absolutely broken, so I actually had to change it. When using the Fist of Steel, it reduces damage by 40%, except melee damage. Instead, if you melee Ramattra, it does like 2 to 3 times more damage. I'm not sure on the exact number because Ramattra has armor, so I decided to buff it a little bit, because it was a little too strong. Melees in Overwatch only do 30 damage, while in Team Fortress 2 they do a lot more. It's supposed to be more punishing than that, so I'm still not sure if it's better to shoot or punch a Fist of Steel Ramattra. It's just kind of broken, honestly. On top of that, you only receive 60% healing, so it's a lot harder to pocket heal him. However, the thing that made it so broken was that Ramattra could still block, and you basically took like 10% damage, and that was a little broken, so I removed the block feature, and instead you just get naturally reduced damage. However, if somebody melees you, it does a lot more. I forgot to test if Reinhardt's melee counts towards it, so I'm just gonna put that there, and if you ever play this game mode, try going Reinhardt and meleeing, and see if that insta-kills him, because it might. Anyways, does this change Ramattra's playstyle? How I implemented it? No, it doesn't. This just makes him broken. If it was implemented correctly, honestly, I still think it would be broken. This is probably a terrible change to add to Ramattra. The Fist of Steel is really overpowered in Team Fortress 2, so I'm not surprised that it's overpowered here. I just added it because it's the Fist of Steel. Ramattra has Fist of Steel. It's the obvious connection. I might nerf this one, so just as a warning, if you ever play this, I recommend not playing Ramattra because he might be a little broken. In all honesty, I think a lot of the tanks are broken. For Reaper, I gave him the Backscatter from the Scout. The Backscatter drops your ammo down to 4. However, you deal mini crits from the back. This means that you do 135% more damage if you shoot them in the back. I'm going to be completely honest with you, I am not sure how good this is. It does break some breakpoints, so you can one-shot some characters that you normally couldn't, but it's just really not worth it. You would think that doing 35% more damage would be a really, really huge buff, but only having 4 bullets really makes it hard to counter who you're supposed to. There was a time during testing where I was just shooting a Roadhog, and I just couldn't even kill him. It's just that the damage doesn't feel like 135%. I'm not really sure why. I think it's because of the pellets and how they work. I think on a weapon like Cassidy's gun, it'd be a lot more impactful since it's just 1 bullet that does a lot of damage. However, since they are very low damage pellets, I think it rounds down, and that really impacts the damage. So the Backscatter in theory sounds like a really good idea, but in practice it just wasn't. But that could just be because of janky Overwatch code. So I think this could work for an alternative playstyle rather than shooting tanks, and it would help him be a better backline assassin. So does it change his playstyle? Not in this version. Would it? Hopefully. Next up is Reinhardt, and I gave him the Charge in Charge from the Demo Man. Reinhardt is the melee guy. Demo Man, when he's a Demo Knight, is the melee guy. They both can charge, so I gave him the Charge in Charge, which basically makes it so when Reinhardt finishes his charge, he has a guaranteed critical hit, which is 3 times damage if you don't remember. So what you want to do with Reinhardt is you want to charge, and then cancel your charge, and then swing immediately, and you will get a critical hit, also known as you're probably going to kill someone. This is better than actually charging, because you can hit multiple people, and even if you do charge someone, you can actually cancel it and swing immediately and guarantee kill them. Well, assuming they're under 200 health. If you cancel the charge and you do another ability like Fire Strike, this will not do a critical hit, because you did not damage the enemy fast enough. It is possible to shatter immediately after a charge and still get the critical hit, but it's really hard to do, and I only did it once. However, would this change Reinhardt's playstyle? I think it would need a nerf in some way, because currently Reinhardt does not have a nerf at all. It just basically makes it so he can cancel his charge and insta-kill people. Again, like I said with Ramattra, I kind of buffed the tanks unnecessarily. I did not mean to, it just happened like that. Reinhardt also has a taunt kill, so yay, another insta-kill. But no, it's a cool change. Maybe if it was nerfed a little bit and maybe, let's say, charge does no damage, I think that would be good. But for now, he's just broken. Up next is Roadhog, and I gave him the sandwich from the Heavy. All this does is make it so he has an eating animation. It goes in third person, you can see around corners, pretty cool. And you can also not run away, so you have to be in a safe place to do it. This is probably actually a net nerf, because you can't run away as you normally can. The upside is that you can see around walls with it, so would you rather be able to run while healing or see around walls? I personally would rather run around, but you can use it for some utility, I guess. I don't really know, it's just a sandwich. Honestly, this is barely even a change. As a reminder, if you have any TF2 weapons that you would want on an Overwatch hero, feel free to comment down below, and maybe I'll change it. For example, Roadhog, I don't really like his change. I mean, I'll probably keep it, but I feel like he could use something better and more game-changing. Next up is Sigma with the Sandman. The Sandman is from the Scout, and normally you only lose 15 health, but for the Scout who has 125 health, that is a lot more. So this is actually one of those moments where I translated that to Overwatch, so Sigma has a lot less health than he normally does. However, when he hits someone with his rock, he actually slows them down. This makes it so much easier to do follow-up shots. By the way, if you do hit yourself with your own rock, you will slow yourself down. However, this is basically a net upgrade, as long as you don't die, of course. It really does make it so much easier to hit follow-up shots. So if you want to be a bit more lethal, you can choose the Sandman and slow people down. It will definitely help with follow-up shots. However, if you need to be a little bit more defensive, you can obviously just not equip the Sandman. So does it change his playstyle? I guess so. Also, Sigma has a taunt kill. Next up is Sojourn with the Criticola from the Scout. When Sojourn emotes, she activates her Criticola, which puts her slide on a 22-second cooldown. From there, she is outlined purple, and she does 35% more damage, bringing back her one-shot, sadly. I gave this to Sojourn with the idea of bringing back her one-shot. Probably not a good idea. However, I had the trade-off be that she loses her slide. That's not part of TF2, I just thought it'd be cool. So will this change your playstyle? It's definitely a buff. So just like Reinhardt, she probably needs a nerf of some sort. However, Sojourn with the Criticola is quite fun still. Next up is Soldier 76, and I gave him the escape plan from the Soldier from TF2. The escape plan makes it so when you're under half health, you increase in speed, and the lower health you have, the faster you are. However, it only activates while sprinting, and while you're sprinting, you are marked for death while it's active. So basically, when you're under 100 health, if you start sprinting, you are marked for death, but you are much faster. Honestly, kind of a cool change. It does make it easier to get away from enemies. However, if the enemy gets a really good shot on you, you will take more damage than normal. I do think the escape plan how it is now would not work very well in Overwatch because it would just be a straight up buff. However, it is definitely fun to use and it does have a downside. So I think it would work well in changing up his playstyle just a little bit, not too much though. He also has the taunt kill, and this one is unique because it kills him. Next up is Sombra with the Cleaner's Carbine from the Sniper. The Sniper has an SMG just like Sombra, so I thought it'd be cool to bring over the Cleaner's Carbine. When you do about 400 damage in Overwatch, it will fill up your Crikey meter, which I know Crikey is Australian and Sombra is not Australian, but I left it for fun. When you activate your Crikey meter, you will deal mini crits, which is 35% more damage. On top of that, if you hack your target and then use your Crikey meter, you're going to do a lot more damage. The downside though is that you do less damage and you have a smaller clip size. The Cleaner's Carbine is kind of like a miniature ultimate. It makes Sombra weaker, but then she can have a short burst of just huge damage, especially if she hacks someone like I said. The Cleaner's Carbine would probably be a little bit too overpowered on Sombra. However, if you can't get enough damage on the Cleaner's Carbine in a fast enough time, your team's just going to get rolled over. So honestly, I think it really does change Sombra's playstyle. Although I think it kind of just helps the best playstyle of Sombra, it doesn't really change it that much. So for some average players, it wouldn't be a good choice, but for pro players, they'd probably dominate with it. So yeah, it changes the playstyle, probably not in a healthy way though. Next up is Symmetra, and I gave her the Scorch Shot. This weapon is from the Pyro, and when you shoot someone with it, you light them on fire. In Team Fortress 2, this weapon's kind of hated, because people will just spam it and just get free damage off. Symmetra basically does the same thing. If you shoot a secondary orb and you hit someone, it does fire damage, and depending on how much damage you did, depends on how long the fire is there for. Again, kind of like the other one, there isn't really a nerf to this, you just kind of are buffed, so feel free to suggest some kind of nerf for Symmetra, because I can tell you right now, I do not want this in my games. On top of that, Symmetra gets a taunt kill, but it's not an insta-kill like the other ones. When the Pyro taunt kills with the Scorch Shot, instead of doing like an insta-kill one, he slowly lowers his weapon and shoots a flare. It's just like a fancy way of shooting it, so Symmetra does the same amount of damage as a Scorch Shot does. It's still an AoE taunt kill, so it's still kind of nice to light that many people on fire. Next up is Torbjorn, with one of my favorite changes. I gave him the Market Gardener from Soldier. When you're in the air for basically longer than a jump, you do critical hit damage. Actually a little bit more than that because I just found it more fun that way. The idea with the Market Gardener from TF2 is that you rocket jump into the air and then you slam someone with a shovel. With Torbjorn, you just jump off something and you hammer them really, really hard. That's all. That's it. You can also do it on the smallest inclines ever, and it's really fun. Does this change Torbjorn's playstyle? Yes, it does. Is it a good thing that he can one-shot someone out of nowhere? Probably not. Is it fun though? Yes. So do I need to probably nerf him in some way? Yeah. This is kind of like a theme with the last changes, because for some reason I guess I just didn't nerf these. But 10 out of 10, it is really fun. For Tracer, I gave her the Babyface's Blaster from the Scout. The Babyface's Blaster starts you off slower than normal. However, as you do more damage, you get faster and faster. The downside, however, is if you get shot, you slow back down. In TF2, it's a little bit more nuanced, like when you jump, you lose speed. However, since Tracer just isn't really jumping, I just didn't add it. I think the Babyface's Blaster definitely does change Tracer a little bit. If you're somewhat able to hit your shots on a Tracer, you should be able to slow her down enough so she's easier to hit. However, if the Tracer's really good, she's gonna be even more good. I forgot to mention, her ammo is also reduced by 33%. I don't think this weapon would be very healthy for the game, but it sure would change her a little bit. Next up is Widowmaker, and I gave her the Machina from the Sniper. In TF2, the Machina makes it so you can no longer do no-scopes. So in Overwatch, I made it so you can no longer fire your automatic fire. However, the trade-off is that when you shoot, you can actually get collateral hits. This means that when you shoot an enemy, and somebody's standing behind them, you will also hit them for 120 damage. As a warning, the collateral damage will always be 120 no matter what, so you can actually quickscope, do a little damage to the first person, but then do 120 damage to the second. The reason I made it this way is because I'm not really sure how to code it a different way. The big issue with it is that I cannot detect if you're gonna headshot the second target, so I just made it so it was the maximum amount of damage for a body shot. The Machina would force Widowmakers to always scope in to shoot someone, and I'm pretty sure they would always go for trick shots, so this would change Widowmaker's playstyle, albeit probably not going to be the most helpful thing ever. Next up is Winston with the Thompson 6000 from the Engineer. The Thompson in TF2 typically shoots out 4 bolts of lightning kind of things, and then when you hit a medic or a spy, you either subtract from their cloak meter or their uber charge. While in Winston's case, when you do a secondary fire, you reduce enemy ultimate charge by 10%. This does scale down, so if you hit someone with a not fully charged shot, you're not going to take the full 10% and instead are going to take less. However, I see this being very, very annoying and not healthy for Overwatch. I mostly just added it because I saw the correlation between the lightning bolts. I also reduced Winston's ammo to only be able to shoot 4 secondary fires, so his playstyle will differ a lot more. He'll kind of be like the ultimate cucker. Probably shouldn't say cuck. He'll kind of be like the ultimate Grinch and just keep stealing your ultimate charge. And I should mention that he doesn't take the ultimate literally, he just removes it from you. He doesn't gain anything from it, except for damage that he already did. So really, Winston just has less ammo, but he takes your ultimate when he secondary fires you. This would change his playstyle, as he would not be able to murder things as easily, but it's going to be super annoying to constantly just lose your ultimate charge. For Wrecking Ball, believe it or not, I gave him the Dead Ringer. When you activate the Dead Ringer, the next time you get shot, you die, but you go invisible and you can choose where to respawn. In Team Fortress 2, you actually fake your death, but in Overwatch, because I can't code faking a death, I just had them kill you, then you respawn as an invisible hamster. And I made it look like so you're like a little hamster escaping from your mech. So you're just a hamster running on the ground. It was a suggestion I remember from a long time ago, because d.va can D-mech, so why can't Hammond D-mech? So that's why I gave Hammond the Dead Ringer over anyone, because it's like a little hamster running out of his mech. The way you activate it, by the way, is you press E or your shields button, and next time you get shot, you can eject from your mech and run away. This would probably not be a healthy change, because while we were testing stuff, we just could not kill Hammond, because he could just run away or Dead Ringer if he absolutely needs to. The only good thing about it though is that there's still noise, so you can still hear where Hammond's going for the most part, and you can also still shoot him. But he comes out of Dead Ringer at full health because he died earlier, so probably this way of doing it is not the best way. However, Hammond with the Dead Ringer, probably overpowered anyways. For Zarya, I gave her the Killing Gloves of Boxing from the Heavy. When you kill someone with your melee, you get guaranteed crits for the next few seconds. That's it. Basically, whenever Zarya punches someone to death, you get 5 seconds of 3 times damage. This is very noticeable. The downside for the Killing Gloves of Boxing is supposed to be that you swing slower. However, you cannot do that in Overwatch, like I said, that I know of. So I just didn't add a downside. So this is another one of those that I probably need to add a downside because it's just good. However, it's just a cool change pretty much. If you finish someone off with a melee, you can just go on a rampage for 5 seconds. And finally, we got Zenyatta, and I gave him the Amputator from the Medic. You deal 20% less damage. However, when you're emoting, you heal your teammates around you. This is best used when you're in a group of teammates and you need to heal them all. So you can just kind of emote and you'll heal them. You can also still have your healing orb out, so you can heal orb and then healing aura. I gave the Amputator to Zenyatta because his ultimate is a giant healing circle. So having a non-ultimate version of it seems pretty reasonable. And that is all the weapons that I imported from Team Fortress 2 into Overwatch. If you have any from TF2 that you want to see, comment down below. I might do a part 2, I'm not really sure if there's enough weapons for that, or enough cool changes I should say, because some of them were kind of boring. For example, Roadhog Sandwich, it didn't really do anything. I probably should have done like the Locust Bar or something. But nonetheless, leave your suggestions down below, like the video, subscribe, tell me what videos I should do next, join the Discord if you like Discord. Go watch Boger's video about realism because I made that game mode and it was funny. And I'll see you guys later.